I've been making movies and TV professionally for 14 years, and somehow I just watched 2001: A Space Odyssey for the first time. Embarrassing, I know, but Kubrick made this movie in 1966 and built a 40-ton centrifuge from scratch for it. He consulted tons of rocket scientists and engineers. He tried to buy preserved human embryos from a biological supply company for it. They said no. He also applied for insurance from Lloyd's of London to protect the film in case we made contact with aliens before it came out. Yeah! What I can't stop thinking about, though, is how I felt something I haven't felt while watching a movie in a long time. Not how did they do that, but what kind of people had to exist for this to be made? In a recent global survey, 97% of people couldn't distinguish AI-generated music from human-made music. I'm learning acronyms I wish I didn't know, like YOC, Your Own Creations, versus OPM, Other People's Music. Does art even exist anymore? All three of us are worried that pretty soon everyone will just generate their own hyper-curated entertainment. A porn-pocalypse, as Jordan called it. Is it a coincidence that whenever the black iPhone-shaped monolith shows up in the movie, things go bad? Is that why the sight of it fills me with terror? Or is it because everything has to die for the next thing to be born? Well, we're going to talk about that and a whole bunch of other stuff this week on Gods, Ghosts, and UFOs, the podcast about all the things they said weren't real.
Spectrovision Radio.
Welcome to Gods, Ghosts, and UFOs, where we talk about all the things that they said weren't real. I'm Mallory Everton. I'm joined by J.E. Peterson, also known as Jordan, and Tom Maxwell. Hello, boys.
Hello, Mallory.
Hi. Quick business moment, Jordan, before we get into the meat of the content.
Yes, absolutely. So we did our first open epilogue last month where we invited all of our paid subscribers on Substack and all of our patrons from Patreon. And it was awesome. It was so much fun. Mallory, you weren't there, which made it way less awesome and way less fun than it could have been. But it was still great. And we've been meaning to do another one ASAP. And we finally are, getting our crap together. And we're going to do another open epilogue on the 23rd of March, which is just a week and a half away. Or I think it might be 5 days away from when this episode releases. So it's coming up. If you guys are interested, I'm not you guys, not Mel and Tom, you guys are going to be there. You have no choice.
We'll be there.
But if any of our listeners are interested in joining us, you can do that by, you can even cheat the system and do a free trial on Substack and get the invite. So, come on down.
You have our
That's what we say.
permission to cheat.
Please cheat.
Well, my dogs just freaked out,
to
so they're going to be at the get together too. But
They always are.
They always are. But I wanted to say that it was such fun, and I can't wait for the next one. So it's not it's something it feels like something for us too.
Oh, absolutely.
Anyway, at the risk of sounding corny.
Yep.
We're selfishly enjoying it, yeah.
The great secret of this whole project is that everything that we do for our paid subscribers is stuff that we already want to do. So
yeah. Don't say that. Don't say that on the air.
Sorry. I shouldn't have said that out loud.
We will talk about that a little bit more in the epilogue today.
Yes. That's right. Which is also for paid subscribers.
Yes. Come and join us. For money. Okay, today we're going to do something a little bit different because I majored in film and I'm a filmmaker, but I just watched 2001: Space Odyssey for the first time.
For the first time?
Remarkable.
3 weeks ago.
All the way through film school without seeing that movie.
I know.
Oh my
I'm
God,
36
dude.
years old. I've been working professionally in film for 14 years. And I haven't seen this movie.
Can I ask you really quick, how many Kubrick movies have you seen, though?
I've seen The Shining and I've seen Dr. Strangelove. I saw that one in high school and loved it. And The Shining
one of my top 10.
Maybe. Oh, it's an amazing movie. An amazing movie.
Yeah.
I feel like absurdism. There's nothing quite like absurdism to capture the paradox of life. I'm laughing and I'm dying.
Yeah.
If you want to just go straight into the dying part, Paths of Glory comes very highly recommended.
You know what?
It's a fantastic
I have also
film.
seen Paths of Glory. I saw that one in film
That's
school
actually
as
one that
well.
I have not seen, so I will have to check that one out.
It's so good. It's so
Yeah.
good.
Well, he's an amazing filmmaker. So I have a couple of thoughts. I know you two will have plenty of thoughts
So
for
many
me.
thoughts.
But I immediately was like, we have to do an episode about this because it's a lot. It's like,
Yeah.
it's brought up so many different conversations for
much.
me. I watched it 3 weeks ago and I've talked about it every day since I saw it. First of all, just for the audience, I'm sure a lot of people have seen this movie and this will be a repeat for some people. But we have to talk about the fact that this movie was shot in 1966.
Unbelievable.
It came out in 1968, a year before we went to the moon. We had like 2 pictures of Earth from space, and they were not good. So Kubrick worked with 50 different organizations, including rocket scientists from NASA and electronic specialists from Hewlett-Packard, communication experts from Bell Labs, and computer technicians from IBM. He had a production team take 6 months to build an actual centrifuge with a diameter of 40 feet and a weight of 40 tons.
Oh my
It's one of the
gosh.
coolest sets you will ever see. And so I happen to be a part of a nerdy film club out here in LA where we do little presentations before we watch movies, and somebody did a PowerPoint about this, and so that's how I knew all of that going into watching this movie. And I sat there with my jaw on the floor for the entire film. And there's just a lot that is very impressive, but I can't believe a person made that. I can't believe humans made that. And at this point in my life, at this point in all of our lives, we are so accustomed to seeing impossible stunts. I'm so accustomed to seeing explosions and otherworldly effects. Space movies. I've seen dozens. Not dozens. Hundreds. Let's be real. Let's be real. Sometimes I imagine what it would have been like to be in the theater for the first time, that certain effects were pulled off. Like, were audiences scared? Were they terrified? Now we just assume things are fake that might even be real. And more with the in the age of AI, we see some stunt and think, oh, well, that's AI. A person couldn't actually do that. Like, we are starting to limit our access to awe because we just assume, like, oh, somebody just did that with a button that they clicked. And I'm getting used to a sort of hazy, uncanny valley looking feeling whenever I watch something. Like, that kind of looks like it could be fake. So fast forward to 3 weeks ago, or I guess rewind to 3 weeks ago, and I'm watching 2001 Space Odyssey, and I'm feeling what I haven't felt for a long time, which is just like utter awe, and not over like, whoa, how do they make that happen with computers? But like, they didn't have anything. They didn't
nothing.
even know what it was like in space yet. They were just like pulling from everything, all the science and all of our guesses. It was the best feeling. I was completely enraptured the entire time. And it's got me thinking a lot about how this is what we really want when we experience art, and what we're experiencing less and less of, which is the feeling like, what did that person have to go through or experience in order to make that? What did that person have to be born with in order to do that? We like these questions, and we're not asking them about the art that we're watching right now because we assume so much of it is fake or assisted by something that's like not even connected to us. And I'll stop there. I've got lots of other thoughts, but I'd like to start with that.
I mean, yeah. You're speaking my language. I mean, the last time that I felt a real sense of I would say almost transcendence or awe in the theater was Dune. And it's because, and it's funny because there's plenty of computer-aided special effects in that movie, but there's something, I think it comes down to the thoughtfulness. And the thing that is so astonishing about 2001: A Space Odyssey is that you can feel it when a big number of people get together and try really, really, really hard to do something and then get it right.
Hardest.
Yeah. And that was true of Dune. Like, Denis
Yes.
Villeneuve is an incredible filmmaker. And the thing that makes him incredible is a similar thing that makes Kubrick incredible, which is that he draws together a huge number of artisans and craftspeople and incredible, talented, deeply talented and experienced people, and says, help me build this thing. And then you see it. You go to there and you're like, you built this monolithic piece of art, and it's astonishing and beautiful and so artful. And yeah, 2001 is one of my favorite movies, because it's not even that it holds up, but it holds up in a way that is just shocking to you, because you're like, well, we know, it's like what, 70 years removed at this point, or however, just like
almost 60. Yeah.
60 years.
Slow down.
Yeah,
it's not
sorry.
That, yeah.
But it's so far removed, and we supposedly know so much more. But you watch that movie and you still feel like you still feel like it's fresh. You still feel like it's fresh. Like it sort of feels like watching it for the first time every time you watch it. I mean, people purportedly sort of lost their minds back when it came out. Like, I know that there was like a nearly like quasi-religious movement about that movie. Like, people would go over and over and over again, like essentially establishing some kind of like spiritual ritual with watching that movie back when it came out. And you watch it today and you're like, I get it. Like, I would have done the same thing in the 60s.
I think some of that behavior was also accompanied with some chemical inducement. Especially the
may have
scene
been
where
some
he
compounds.
gets drawn into the light field.
Yes.
I think that was
absolutely.
actually a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
There's no better advocate for in-camera special effects than that movie. That's Exhibit A. This is what I think about immediately, Mal, when you brought that up. One, in-camera special effects, where it's not CGI, it's not done with a computer, it's not done in post-production, it's done on the set. There is a video on YouTube where it's just the scene where they're in the space shuttle and the businessman, there's like a floating, like it's a zero gravity thing, and the flight attendant woman has like Velcro shoes and all this stuff, and there's a floating pen. There's a whole thing about how did they get that shot. It was stunning to me. And when you see it, well, one, unless you're the most imaginative person in the world, you'd never know how they got that shot. And two, it just looks like exactly what's on the box. And it's not badly done. Second thing is that the reason that it holds up so well, apart from the fact that it's just beautiful, is that Kubrick did not make a ticketed ride. Now, there's a part of it, like toward the end, that feels like, hey,
sure.
why don't you like do some stuff in the parking lot and come in, because a splendid time is guaranteed for all. But like with Kubrick, not only does everything have a narrative function, there's meta-narrative function, and then there's subtextual function. There's literally like layers of meaning that are happening, layers of messaging that are going out. So it's not just a bunch of fireworks meant to distract or entertain you. He also assumes that you're not a moron. He assumes that you're like intelligent and engaged. And the last thing he does, the thing I thought of immediately, was ambiguity. He's just purposefully ambiguous. And I think of like the first 3 times I saw Eraserhead by David Lynch. The first time I saw it, I was a teenager, and I was really, really angry because I was waiting for some big narrative payoff that never came, and I felt like I'd been gypped. And the second time I saw it, I was like, oh, yes, no, I understand. Oh, yes. And the third time, I just laughed and laughed and laughed. And I think that there's something similar with Kubrick movies in particular, where you can go back. And you can go back. This one in particular, I think he's like, what do you want it to be? I'm not going to tell you, Jack.
I appreciate what you're saying, Tom, about it not being a ticketed ride. There's something deliberately, and this, I did a lot of research into this movie and the book that was written. I don't know how many of our listeners are going to know this, but it was not based on a book by Arthur C. Clarke. It was co-written by Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke while Arthur C. Clarke was writing the book.
Yes.
So they were written at the same time. And then at the end, there was a divergence because Clarke had an idea about where he wanted it to go and how he wanted it to culminate. And Kubrick had a different idea. Kubrick wanted it to be a little bit more mystical, and Clarke wanted it to be a little bit more grounded. And so you read the book and you watch the movie, and they diverged pretty starkly at the end. It's like sort of the same things kind of happens, but in the book there's like it's a lot more satisfying in the book because you're like, oh, this is what happened. In the movie, you're just like, what is happening? And which is really, really beautiful. But one of the things I was going to mention is one of the things that they were aligned on a lot. They were aligned on a lot of. I mean, it's very, very close in terms of adaptation. But the character of Dave was deliberately written to be very boring. Like he was supposed to be basically, he had been machinized. Basically, like there was kind of a not so subtle statement by Kubrick and Clarke kind of collaboratively that humanity at this sort of late stage capitalism, techno-fascism, like the idea that the humanity had been basically subsumed by the technology they had created. And so the people in the narrative, and Kubrick was like rigid about this. Like he would tell his actors basically not to act. He's like, just say the lines, just show up, say the lines. Don't emote. Like they weren't supposed to be characters. They were supposed to essentially be automatons that were just like filling a space. And so the characters in this movie, and particularly Dave, it's like they have almost forgotten all of their emotions, and they're just basically one more cog in the great machine of humanity. And that functions on so many different levels. But one of the things it does is it allows Dave to be one of the most effective everymans that I've ever seen in film. Meaning he's not special. Like he's not special. He's just a guy. And yeah, he's competent, whatever, he's well trained, but like he's not a hero. He's like classically he's a human cog, which then makes the sort of last, by the spoilers, the last sort of transcendent psychedelic journey that he takes in both the book and the movie becomes an even more thematically significant event, because it's like, oh well, that would happen to anyone who went through the journey he went through. It wasn't because he was special. He wasn't like selected for it. It was just like, this is the human path, or could be the human path.
What I love about it is that it's a total subversion of the atomic age ideal. Because most of this stuff then, especially about the space program, these guys were, the right stuff, the Supermen.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the like, with their boring, conservative haircuts. And so all of this stuff and all this super high tech, which had been just super hyped for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Since the Second World War.
Yeah.
Kubrick's like, oh yeah, here it is. No, check it out. They've got all the toys, all the gadgets, all the bells and whistles, and then he just sort of just throws it in the trash. They're completely defeated. The whole thing is just defeated. Doesn't matter.
This guy is still just goo in the face of the cosmos.
It's just wonderful.
But there's a question. So I'm curious, Mal, what was your impression of the ending of the movie? Because I want to get here. Actually,
we're just going right there.
No, I don't want to go. I don't want to go to the end. I don't want to go to the end.
Okay.
Actually, because I want to start actually at the beginning. What was your feeling about? So I've read a lot of like really great commentary, and if I try to really quote any of it, I'll just butcher it. So I'm not even going to try. But a lot of great comparisons and commentary about essentially comparing the obelisk to like, I mean, this is an obelisk. Like it's the phone. Like we all carry around an obelisk from 2001 in our pockets, and that then there's just like so many ways that can go. But yeah, I'm curious, like, what your impression of that sort of like as a thematic device, as a narrative device, like how did you feel about all that? Because presumably this is the first time like you had really fully encountered that as in the film.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen that scene parodied. I saw Barbie. That's how Barbie begins, with a parody of 2001. I was like aware that it was a parody of 2001.
Yes. Yeah.
But I actually didn't know the plot function of that sequence, and it does make a lot of sense, and it lines up with a lot of things that we've discussed on the podcast, that if there are NHI interacting with us from other places, other distant places, that perhaps they have an interest in human evolution or play a role in our evolution, or perhaps our spiritual awakenings are coming from somewhere outside the house sometimes. And that is the immediate feeling that I had. That and it actually, I thought of Denis Villeneuve as well, because I think that he does a very good job with, and I read about Kubrick really not wanting to depict any aliens because he realized that anything he did would look silly in comparison. And so the idea that you just do this black monolith that looks like a TV remote. But it's also scary looking. Like it's scary looking because especially in the first scene with all of the primitive apes, it's like where and why in the middle of this would that be there, and what would happen if we were suddenly introduced to extremely high tech. And I don't know, I think that for me it smacked of truth in a way that freaked me out, as is always true. As is always true. The concept that what's really happening is that sometimes we're being nudged to our next necessary state of evolution. And whether that be literal, like we see something that breaks our brains, or honestly, that we see a sci-fi movie and then we start creating what's in the sci-fi movie. Like art is also doing this to us. It feels kind of true on so many levels that sometimes when we get a peek into what could be something more advanced than us, we evolve. I don't know. That was like a mush salad, but
No,
I
I love
don't know how to
my
talk
favorite.
about it.
My favorite thing to eat is mush salad. I was thinking about it actually, knowing that we were going to be talking about this movie today. I was thinking about it this morning, and I realized that I increasingly, as I get older, and I'm curious, Tom, what you have to say about this, because I am increasingly upset or irritated by the presumption in the beginning of the movie that the next stage of evolution for the apes was murdering each other with femurs.
I thought it was tools. Like,
yeah, so it's supposed
to
to this idea of tools, but like
I have opinions.
I'd love to hear them. Because I don't love that, and I also don't think it's accurate. I don't think that that's like a good representation. I mean, I'm like, to me, it doesn't suggest an advance in sophistication to use a femur to kill you.
No, not at all.
Hold on, just real quick. What felt specific to me about it was that one half of those apes was more advanced because they realized they could use tools, and the other, but war was not created. It was just that like there was a difference in knowledge or like ability. Anyway, I think that's just like a slight difference.
No, and that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Somebody once said that a tree branch is not a product, but if you tie a sharpened stone to it, it's an axe. And then you have a product and you can sell that. To me, every time the monolith shows up, it's bad news. It doesn't help that it basically absorbs light. It doesn't help that it's big and scary and monolithic. It doesn't help that the soundtrack is entirely unnerving with the super dissonant vocal choir going on, where it's like, la, 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 very, very dissonant. And it is dissonant. And to me, it's always bad news because it's like, it conforms with what people have been talking about with respect to disclosure, which is like, look, they have cooler toys than we have. We want them for ourselves. It gives us a competitive edge so we can kill other people more efficiently. Let's keep all of this knowledge to ourselves and just use it in a way that's destructive. And so the idea is that technology is abhorrent. It is actually abhorrent. Now, I'm just talking about the movie.
Right.
Sure.
The monolith shows up. It's all right angles. It's made from material. It's not natural. It's not natural. What happens?
Specifically not natural.
Apes start killing each other. Also, just to take an immediate discursive turn, huge budget picture, 1968, huge budget.
And I think it was $10 million in 1968, which is a lot of money.
Big money. And so their ape costumes are excellent. And then the movie that came out that same year, Planet of the Apes, was the highest expression of that kind of costumery available to Hollywood at that time. They don't have a patch on the Patterson-Gimlin film, which was shot in 1967. Just saying. Okay. Now, so the monolith shows up. First time, it's bad news. Oh, I can use this bone to beat you over the head. I win. Okay. The next time, it's like, what happens? The technology, their super duper, super AI buddy, supercomputer hell.
It's like, nope.
Goes on a murder spree. Why? Because a monolith showed up and they want to know what it was communicating. Why? Because they want that to be proprietary. It has proprietary value to the people who have power and want to maintain that power.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like all starting with the femur bone, going all the way up to that spaceship Discovery and the HAL 9000. It's all a way of just getting you farther in the service of the thing that is not even in your own best interest.
That's the thing that's so interesting to me, because you can really go, and there's a real tension, I think, in the film and the narrative between this idea of like human transcendence and human potential, and then also the sort of exploitation of humanity via a force outside of it. Like, because the black monolith is, it seems to be almost catalyzing human nature to like weaponize it, basically. It's almost like an accelerant on Darwinianism, Darwinian.
That's
like,
the way.
Yeah.
It felt to me.
which is why when we get to the ending,
Well-
I think my understanding of what Arthur C. Clarke meant by it is not at all my takeaway on it.
Arthur C. Clarke was a techno-optimist in many ways. He believed that we would eventually, I mean, I think he's very firmly believed that eventually we would become, there's this strain of materialism, modern materialism, that is highly technocratic. And it ends up being fascist, right? Because like it's the idea that if you can, like, humanity should be governed by highly trained individuals who know what's best for the rest of everyone. Like it's very technocratic. And like
those people always turn out to be complete freaking navel-gazing morons.
Oh, no,
that's
absolutely.
The problem. These aren't
No,
like enlightened
absolutely.
masters. They're
Well,
incels.
That's the problem. That's that. See, but the idea is that, and if you look at like the tradition of sci-fi, and majorly influential sci-fi authors, like, I mean, Isaac Asimov was a technocrat. Like Arthur C. Clarke, some of his most famous books were about civilizations that had moved beyond religion and were governed by very specifically designed and engineered systems that would keep everyone, basically that were utopian in nature. This man was, I think, deeply atheist. And so he was like, clearly religion's not it. Like, clearly spirituality is stupid, but what do we do about this human thing of technology? And then he wrestled with it a lot, but I think he truly believed that, the best option we had was for everyone to get as smart as possible and as good with technology as possible, so we could like control the environment as much as possible and create utopia. And he also saw that as probably being impossible, but like, we should try. Like, which it just, so to me, it's like you get to the end of 2001, the book, his version of the ending was like, Dave came back as this like passionless super being who just controlled everything. Just like, okay, this is your version of like, transcendence. Anyway, it's kind of
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it goes without saying that one of the reasons that the ending feels so brilliant is because it goes beyond comprehension. So the idea that there's some kind of actual end doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
Because we can't fathom it. That's the point. And so to me, I mean, and again, I just watched this and I read about mostly the behind the scenes, but not really interpretations of the movie. So, but the way that it felt to me was that it was always an impetus for the next stage, even if it was dark, the next stage of human evolution, because the monolith is also present when he gets to Jupiter, is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's also there in that scene, and it doesn't lead to violence in the classic sense, at least. But yeah, to me, when I was hearing like those dissonant chords and feeling that scary, horrible feeling, I was just thinking about the annihilatory, like the sort of feelings that you always get when you realize that eventually you're going to die and that all of your ideas have to die and that everything about you has to die in order for the next thing. So it's like, is it terror because it's bad, or is it terror because all of this will lead to the next inevitable evolution of all things?
Yeah.
Good question.
Who knows?
Well, we've already started talking about the ending, Tom. So,
before we get there,
Let's
though, because
talk.
you get the thing where the monolith is present, and then stuff gets crazy.
Yes,
And
that
what
seems pretty clear.
exactly? And so, to me, what he does is he collapses linear time. He just collapses it. I mean, if nothing else, right? In the scene where Dave is in a bedroom, I don't know, looking at himself in a bed.
That
and
scene.
he's young, and then he's old, and then he's young and old, and it's like all things are existing at the same time. So it's almost like we just leave the linear time concept. I don't know what to do with that. It's visually just beautiful. I mean, it's just wonderful. It wasn't at all what I guess was thinking would happen when I was watching the movie, but most of the movie was not what I was thinking would happen. And going back to that, Kubrick is so good at procedural. He's so good at
Right.
almost boring your brains out. And I think of Barry Lyndon, which is just a visual banquet that's boring as hell. I think of all of the procedural in Dr. Strangelove when they're in the B-52 going over their complicated checklists and just forever. Just all this procedural stuff. Yeah, did you flip that toggle switch? Yes. Yes, I did. Okay, then. You know, and it's all protocol, and it's all leading to utter insanity. Anyway, 2001 just goes on forever with the yes, I'm getting exercise here because that's something that a man should do who's, it's just nuts. Everything's crazy. Leaving that aside, the Star Child, the first time I saw it, I was like, I don't know what kind of sort of new agey fifth dimension sop this is to the boomers. Like, I don't know what exactly. But the last time I saw the movie, which still was maybe 6 years ago, it filled me with horror.
Yeah, I mean, for real.
Horror.
That's
the
how I
forced
feel.
perspective where it's bigger than the Earth. I'm like, what is this? What is this vampire monster that's going to devour the world? What is an infant? What is a fetus in no womb? What the hell is that? What is this there's no mother? Its eyes are open. What's happening right now? Like, why is it looming? Why is it looming over the earth? Like, it's bad. This is bad. And I think, again, I don't know. My understanding is that Arthur C. Clarke was like, yay, the Star Child this is great. You know, we start with hitting each other with bones, and then we get into maybe doing terrible things with machines. But now, I don't know, something Star Child. Great promise.
Well, I
didn't feel that way at all. I felt terrible.
It's just shorter. It's just
Totally. I mean, I did too. I was deeply unsettled. I dreamt about it afterward.
Why is a giant baby in space? It's not even a baby. It's not even a baby.
Well, definitely not a baby. Although, did you know?
No kind of baby I've ever seen.
Stanley Kubrick, he was turned down, but I got this this was from a Vanity Fair article that was written, I think in 2022, just as a retrospective about the film. Clarke had come up with the idea of Bowman turning into a fetus-like star child at the end of the film. Whether that image was meant literally or metaphorically is your call, but Kubrick's archive includes a cable to a Chicago biological supplies company requesting, quote, preserved human embryos in various states of development, presumably a product of Kubrick's need to research any concept to the nth degree. The company replied in a terse cable that it was unable to, quote, supply human embryos, ... Sorry. Like, no, man, I'm not giving you human embryos.
You just
for your movie.
You don't know the answer unless you ask the question.
Yeah, I mean, hats off to the man for being willing to
Kubrick,
ask.
man.
Yeah.
Was he going to leave a stone unturned? No,
No.
he wasn't.
Not his style.
No hume embryo ellipses.
No
sorry, maybe
hume embryo. Sorry. There's another very interesting fact that I dug up on the AFI catalog website. Give me just a moment to find it in my notes here. Kubrick applied for insurance from Lloyd's of London to protect the film against the, quote, discovery of extraterrestrial beings prior to 1967. So he was actually concerned that we would discover aliens before the film came out and that it would harm its release. And so Lloyd's had not yet decided whether or not to issue a policy. But he actually was like, this is going to happen before I can get this movie out. Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
Well, and there are people who believe it with all their hearts that the moon landings of 1969 were filmed on a soundstage and
By
directed
Kubrick.
By
Stanley
Kubrick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, earlier when you, Mel, when you were like talking about when this movie was filmed and that it was, came out the year before the moon landings, I wanted to say allegedly.
Allegedly. Totally.
I'm not a moon landing conspiracy theorist. I do believe that we went to the moon. I mean, I might be wrong. I'm open to being wrong, but I am going to go on record as
we do
believing.
like to stay
I do
open.
believe that. I do
Because
believe that.
4 years later, white men are hitting golf balls on the moon, and that just makes perfect sense to me. That we went there to knock some golf balls around and plant a flag that doesn't wave because there's no wind. That works for me.
There are many reasons why I feel like talking about this film applies to the concerns of our podcast. But one of them, if you don't mind me circling back to something Tom was
Please.
talking about. Tom was talking about the basically this is a massive push for, what did you call it? In-camera special effects, for practical
Yes.
special effects.
Practical effects, yeah.
And I wanted to bring up one of the concerns that I think is arising in the AI world, which is that, practical or not, people can't tell. They're beginning to not be able to tell what is real and what isn't. In fact, let's talk about music for a second, because one of the many conversations I've had about this movie was with my friend Brendan, by the way. And he is a musician, and he talks about it almost like it was a hate follow, but he is a part of a Facebook group that is dedicated toward Suno music makers. So they're using the AI Suno to make music, and he's privy to a lot of the conversations that they're having there. And one of the things that came across his feed was that there was a study done last year. Last year in 2025, a survey was conducted by the global polling firm Ipsos. Approximately 9,000 people from 8 countries were given 3 musical clips, 2 AI generated and 1 human made, and they were asked to identify which was human made, and 97% of people could not tell. And I think that feels very dark, and it feels really stressful. And so I wasn't even aware of this study, but Brendan made me aware of it as we were talking. And then we got talking about the fact that another one of the conversations that he had seen happen on the Suno Facebook group was that people were using these terms. Do you listen to YOC? How much OPM are you listening to? YOC being your own creations versus other people's music. As in, what could be happening with AI is that people will use it to just tickle their own brain with all of the music that they're making, that they're able to make with the click of a button. And we got talking about, like, what is the actual meaning of being able to prompt 1,000 songs in an afternoon, when he was like, I'm fully aware, like, he's been making music and working on making music for 20 years. And so he and his collaborator have made about 500 songs. He's aware that it will take his lifetime for him to be able to make that many songs, but that is the point. And so this conversation about, like, why is this movie so amazing? And it's in part because of what we were talking about earlier, Jordan, with you saying, like, you can feel when that many people come together, but what if you don't know? Like, are we going to need contextual notes on all of the art that we're consuming so that we understand the stories behind it if 97% of us can't tell when something was made by a soul and when something was just made out of a collection of all of the history of music by this thing?
I'm going to just right off the bat, I'm going to say that this conversation is beyond the ken of our podcast. I don't know. What I do believe, though, is that, and I will actually endeavor to tie this back to the movie. What I do believe is that we are swiftly approaching an era in which the majority of people, maybe almost everyone below a certain age, will get the majority of their entertainment through AI-generated means, because it will just be too good. It will be too good at giving you exactly what you think you want. The difference between art and AI-generated slop, no matter how good or indistinguishable the AI-generated slop may be, is that the art is communal. Like, it just is. Like, when I make something, I made it. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. It doesn't matter. Like, I made it, me, right? And if I share that with someone else, then that's the connection. That's the relationship of art, of artist to audience. With AI as intermediary, there are no other people. If I generate something with AI, then there's no one else. So it like, so it lacks I think one of the essential components of what art is supposed to be and is for, like the function of art. The function of art is not distraction and entertainment. It can be distracting, it can be entertaining, but that's not what it's for. And I think that the thing that we are all amazed by in this movie of 2001 is that it is so clearly itself, and it has this profound effect on us, and we also know its provenance, which is like very much contributes to our experience of the thing. If it came to us ex nihilo from an AI generating machine, and we received it that when we knew it came from that, or we didn't know where it came from, we assumed it may have come from there, then it wouldn't have the same impact. We might say, oh, that's really pretty or whatever, but we wouldn't really care that much. Like there's an essential component in the consumption or the interaction with art that demands a kind of reaching out. It's not just passive. And so I'm not saying, like, again, any piece of art can be received passively, but true art also gives you the opportunity to be proactive, to be active, to reach out and connect with it on a personal level. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But I do think another sort of significant feature of the monolith is that, especially by the end, it is approached alone. Like, Dave is all by himself when he approaches the monolith at the end. He goes through that journey completely alone. And then he becomes more alone than maybe any other human in history. He becomes alone in the fact that he becomes a different species. He is so entirely alone by the end of the movie that he's like not even human anymore. And I think that there's something, maybe like this is, I think also that movies are Rorschach tests, so you can kind of see whatever you want in it. But like you can easily see, if you're comparing the phone to the Black Monolith from 2001, like this thing is sucking us all in by ourselves and dissolving our connections and turning us into something fully unique, but not in a good way. Fully unique as in completely sort of collapsed in on our own ego without with essentially numbing us to our sense of need of other people. And so I think that's the great danger. It's like, I don't really care whether or not, I've been making the case for over a year now that if an AI generated a piece, like a painting, and then a human painted a painting, and they were the exact same, down to the pixel, the thing that the AI made would not be art, and the thing that the human made would be art, just because of the provenance. Unfortunately, I don't think that matters in a market sense. Like, I don't think it matters.
Right.
I think, on a certain level, like there's more and more people are going to be like, if I can just like prompt an AI and tell it exactly what I want, and it gives me the thing that I think that I want, and it looks really good, and it makes me feel the way that I want to feel in that moment, and it arouses whatever I want it to arouse in that moment, then what do I need? What do I need anything else for? And it's a great, horrible cultural poverty. But yeah, I do believe that's where we're going.
Jordan, I love this read. First of all, it gives me permission to be as scared as I was when I watched the movie, because I was very scared. I'm not going to lie. I was very scared. All those like still images of his face in horror that pop up while you're watching all the psychedelic things, you're like, oh gosh, he's not okay. I don't like that he's not okay. And you know me, I'm always going to be a proponent for touching grass and humanity when it comes to these ontologically shocking discussions, or the things that could start to feel really, really rootless and groundless, because that's kind of where the conversation went. It's like with my friend Brendan, that we were talking about, okay, so you can make an echo chamber where you just live with, you can make all your own porn, you can do whatever it is that like you want to do with all of these different mediums. And finally, instead of going and having AI like curate a playlist for you, you can just make your own songs. I like Kesha, but I also like classical music, and I want those two things combined. I like blah blah blah, and no challenge, like to say what Tom to link to what Tom was saying earlier. There's no sit down to watch Eraserhead and I hate it. There's none of that. And then you eventually love it. You don't get to do that when you're like just told what is just going to be extra pleasant soma for you. It's there's nothing there to challenge you and cause you to grow. And I think it's because, yes, one part of the equation when you're making art, and I'm going to actually say that making art is also like the act of creating in your life. So like, even if you don't think of yourself as a creative person, one part of that is pleasing yourself, like honestly expressing and pleasing and
Absolutely.
delighting yourself.
It's
so
maybe
important.
the first part. It's probably, I think it
Yeah,
is
you're
it has
the
to be
first
the
audience.
first part. Yeah.
But according to many of the more therapeutic or psychiatric specialists I really love, I love a woman named Jennifer Finlayson Fife, and she loves somebody named Dr. Schnarch that she always talks about. But she
Sorry,
always
Dr.
talks about
Schnarch?
how, I know it's the best last name ever. Dr. Schnarch.
I thought that was just a
But
placeholder sound you made because you didn't know their name.
No. She's referenced a lot of Dr.
Dr.
Schnarch's work.
Schmarf.
That's my favorite name now.
She talks about how the two basic human needs are to belong to yourself and to belong to each other. And they will always be dancing. They will always be in harmony. So this idea that you go through something where you're totally alone and you're not connected to anyone, it makes you less human ultimately. Because if you're in this echo chamber of all of just the stuff that you made and all of the kind of ideas that are never challenged, then you don't grow. Like, we are a part of each other's evolution that is crucial and necessary, and also just makes everything better. I'm like, bring on the OPM. I only want to listen to other people's music, and I like making music, but not so that I can please myself and sit alone in a room being like, I'm Beethoven. I want to share it with people. I want someone to say something back to me about it. I want someone to boo or clap.
We're living in a porn apocalypse. Like everything is porn now. Because what is porn? Porn is taking something that is real and that is a human action or a human relation that like is very powerful and very meaningful to people. And it's subtracting away everything except for one thing. And then it's saying that thing is the whole thing. And then it's reproducing it at scale. So for profit. So like that's everything now. That's everything. That's news. That's politics. That's food. That's music. That's everything. Everything now, basically, is porn. And it was inevitable. We should have seen that it was inevitable as soon as private equity got involved in media. Like, okay, it's all going to be porn.
It's all going to be porn. Dehumanization, really. I mean, it's interesting because when we dehumanize each other, we're capable of ghastly, horrible things. And when we dehumanize art, we don't experience anything.
Yeah. Boy. Well, that's just really dark.
Sorry.
Wait, I didn't even weigh in yet.
Tom needs to weigh in, and this is his area. I want to hear from Tom.
He's cracking his knuckles.
He pulls off his earrings.
I was a professional musician for about 15 years. It is a less destructive and more sort of legal form of human trafficking. And so the bait and switch is the idea that like you make music to make money and to be famous. That's the trick the devil pulled. That's not why I ever made music, and I stopped. And when I did quit, I was panicked because I was like, well, why do you want to stop? And it was because, well, why do you want to keep going? And it was because the money was starting to get pretty good, and I was scared to leave it. But I did. Being mad at like the AI, the YOC, your own creation stuff, is just whatever the Greek Narcissus or whoever it was that fell in love with his own reflection in the pond. You can't be mad at the mirror. But the mirror the mirror doesn't generate anything. The mirror reflects the thing. So we got great mirrors now. But in 20 years, whatever AI music's being made now will have no effect on people. It won't make any sense. And it won't be emotionally resonant at all because it's constantly, it is never generative. It's always derivative. The other thing that, and it always will be. So now we're getting to the farthest end of the spectrum where everything is product and everyone is being turned into their own, perfectly individuated consumer class, and demographic. And great, now it doesn't even make sense anymore. And maybe that's what has to happen in order for the actual value of the thing, which is what Jordan was saying, which is intrapersonal and interpersonal resonance and communication to come forward. Do either of you know a viola player? Have you ever hung out with viola players?
I
not
know
sure I
one
have.
or two, but yeah.
The joke is that they can never keep the instrument in tune. Violas are notorious for going out of tune, and they're always a little out of tune. And every time I listen to a string quartet, that you can hear the viola just a little like. But the reason that quartets and orchestras sound so beautiful is the fact that they're not perfectly in tune. If every instrument in an orchestra, every stringed instrument was in terms of the way that it's being played, not just the instrument itself being in tune, but the way that it's intonated was perfectly in tune, it would be horrifying. It's the very, very slight, it's not even dissonance, it's more just depth that is given. I had a very in-depth conversation with a classical musician one time because I grew up as a drummer, so not even a musician. The joke is I was a songwriter. I'm not a musician, but I can play guitar. And to me, on guitar, which has frets, you're either playing a G or you're playing an F sharp. And this musician, a violinist, was like, oh my God, no. There's such a huge difference between G flat and F sharp. And it has to do with what key the piece is in. And it has to do with what you're moving to or what you're moving from, that you will intonate that note. And I was like, and so what is that? What is that a function of? That's a function of humans collaborating. That's all the people on the set of 2001, all the people that contributed to that. We say Stanley Kubrick made he absolutely did not.
I'm always griping against like auteur theory because they love to talk about the director as though it's he's the visionary. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, he needs to have a vision, but also he's working with hundreds of incredibly talented people. He could not go and make the movie by himself.
Yeah,
Here's the
theory
paradigm
doesn't make
we're
any sense.
working with and we're overturning now. And I forget the name of the guy that did it. He was a Scotsman. And this is the great man theory, and probably from the 18th century, possibly the 19th century. And this man said, all history is but the history of great men. Completely wrong. Completely wrong-headed. But that's why you don't get musicians. You get rock stars. You're a rock star. You're excused to behave badly because you're a rock star. I can't play music. I can't sing. Therefore, I don't deserve it. It's the worst. It's the worst lens to look at it through. It's the worst way to treat yourself. The idea that somehow you can't do the thing that is most foundationally human because you don't meet some sort of criteria for profitability. Come on.
Yeah.
Are we being real right now? So all I'm doing is reinforcing what you guys have already said. But I gave the keynote address for the Change Music Conference in 1999 because why? Because I'm Gen X. And I remember these two dudes who had shaved heads and looked like Moby were like, in the future, all music's going to be created by robots. And I castigated them. Even at the time, I found it profoundly insulting because like, it doesn't matter. It's a human thing. The human makes it. Just because we have the mirror that gives us a good reflection of it, that means nothing. Who cares?
But this is also sort of the tale as old as time, right? I mean, human beings creating things and then worshiping the works of their own hands. That's all this is. It's saying, oh, we built this really amazing robot. You know, one day that robot's gonna do everything for us. In fact, one day that robot's probably gonna rule our lives, actually. Like, oh, look, we made this incredible art making machine. You know what? This machine's probably better at making art than we are now, actually. It's like, this is the same thing we've always done. It's just that we're doing it at scale, and now we've democratized the means of production. Yeah. So now everyone has a little thing to worship in front of them.
It's just more wealth extraction. That's all it is. If we can design, well, we already have designed extraordinary AI models. What should they be doing? Figuring out how to live more efficiently in terms of how we use energy, figuring out how we, I don't know, redesign traffic patterns. And maybe there are people who, but to see that stuff, you can't really turn a buck with that, can you? And that's, I think, so that's the organizing principle. The thing itself, the technology itself, it doesn't have to be purposed towards wealth extraction and that sort of and exploitation of human beings. That's just what we're doing now because we're in the whatever people want to call it, late stage capitalism. But there's baby and there's bathwater, and it's long past time to change the bathwater, and the baby does not resemble the star child.
Couple of quick reminders before you go. First off, if you haven't left a rating on your platform of choice, please do that. One of the first things people look at when they're judging a show by its cover is the number of ratings it has. So if you dig what we're doing, show it with stars. In the epilogue, we talked about Grand Theft Auto cheat codes, how to achieve the bliss of absolute focus, and had a fierce and exhausting debate about the patriarchy. If you want to hear it, go to godsghostsufos.com or find the link in the description. See you next week, friends.